Welcome to Let's Talk About It. All right, Armando, we got to get the timing back. I know we, jumped off into 2019, but welcome to Let's Talk About It with Rod Love and Greg Jackson.
Once again, it's on. It's good to be back and to see everyone jumping on and joining us. How was that week this past week, Brother Love?
Man, it was excellent, Greg, man. I tell you, got a chance to participate in some things, man, and one of those things you're familiar with.
Yeah.
The celebration of our governor right now.
The 46th governor here in the state of Florida, and he has hit the ground running.
Governor DeSantis.
Yeah. We're going to talk a little bit about that as the show moves on. I mean, he's making some moves that I don't think people anticipated. I think that we kind of forecasted some of this stuff
Right out of the gate,
and so it's starting to come to fruition. But one of the things also, tonight's topic, and we're going to have some special guests to call into the show tonight. We're going to have Ms. Cynithia Slater, who is the president of the Volusia County chapter of the NAACP, who's going to be calling in and joining the show tonight and talking to us about some issues that are taking place in Volusia County with Sheriff Chitwood.
No, Greg, that's not a fair introduction to that, because you got to give a little background on how that came to be.
Well, we're gonna get into all of that. We're gonna get into all of that because it is a long, I don't want to say a long drawn out story of what's taking place, but there is some history to it that I think folks need to know about as it relates to Amendment 10 and the Volusia County Commission and how they're looking to handle those things. But before we get to all of that, Brother Love, and talking about Governor DeSantis and how he's hit the ground running, man, the Groveland Four were posthumously pardoned just this past Friday by Governor DeSantis and the Clemency Board.
Oh, and you know what, Greg? Coming out of the gate, doing some of the things that the governor is doing when you talk about the Groveland Four, and this has been an issue. This just didn't start yesterday now.
No, absolutely not. And, last week while you were in the great metropolis of Tallahassee, I kind of touched on this just a little bit because the rumblings were out there that Governor DeSantis and the Clemency Board were going to do this, but now we know for certain that he has done it. But to put it into perspective, 70 years ago, there were 4 African-American gentlemen in the city of Groveland who were accused of raping a white female, Norma Paget, and there was a whole story that came about from that. That actually culminated to a documentary that you and I actually attended.
Bishop Wiggins Church, as a matter of fact.
That's right, talking about the Groveland Four. And I mean, the history behind this story also intertwines within it even the first African-American Supreme Court Justice of the United States, because he actually came into the state of Florida to represent one of the gentlemen who was accused as a part of the Groveland Four.
Greg, didn't we talk about some of the attorneys that were engaged in this process that I think one of them in particular lost his legislative seat?
If I recall correctly, it was Ackerman.
Correct.
What happened last Friday was nothing short of amazing, and I'm just going to say it.
You're absolutely correct, but you know what? And, we're going to have time to circle back and to continue to have conversation about this, but, man, when we talk about Governor DeSantis hitting the ground running,
right?
You talking about what he did for these men.
And their families.
And their families. You're right.
Yeah.
And so we talk about that, Greg. And we're going to be talking about the water management district down south.
Right.
And what took place with that. But there's some other thing. We're going to get into the removal of the Broward County Sheriff.
And the Broward County Sheriff has indicated that he's going to challenge this suspension, and he has decided that he's going to make a constitutional argument. And we know what happened. The last time an elected official made a constitutional argument, what the prediction was or what happened. Right?
Are we talking about the state attorney here?
Listen, I ain't saying nothing.
We talking about the state attorney?
All I'm going to say is that if you want to go head to head on a constitutional issue and force me to go to the constitutional and point out to you who has authority to do what, you got to be careful.
But you know what? Being careful, Greg, and exhibiting the courage that we've seen this governor step in and take thus far. Greg, I got to tell you, man, I was anxiously waiting to be impressed by something, but I didn't know it was going to happen the first week.
Yeah, like I said, man, he came out swinging. He came out swinging.
Greg, we missing some things too. I mean, you know, we talk about the water management district, and that's an issue. And I'm gonna let you do all the legalese, but dealing with the what was it? The sugarcane farms? Or?
Yeah, that had a part there because with some lease on some land. Now, when we talk about people over party, the clemency board, in my mind, did people over party because you have one Democrat and 3 Republicans on the clemency board. And this clemency board is made up, and listen to me, I'm a Democrat, but I give credit where credit is due. I want people to understand that. And this clemency board made up of 3 Republicans and 1 Democrat pardoned the Groveland 4.
So Greg, let me ask you this question, and this is some of the conversation that, you know, over a year and a half we've been having these kind of conversations about how does party affiliation transcend and do what it was supposed to do originally, and that is do the biddings of the people.
That's right. That's right. Do what's right.
Do what's right.
Right. And so when we look at this, and that's why I want to point to the significance of what happened last Friday. There have been 13 prior governors of the state of Florida who passed on looking at this case for whatever reason. Whether it was, whether it was Collins, who was the first governor to address this. Remember that he first addressed it up until the last governor. For whatever reason that they did not take this case up. There were 13 governors who allowed this to go forward. And now Governor DeSantis,
first week on the
job, takes up the mantle and pardons these gentlemen, and this, I'm sure, takes a load off of the family members of the gentlemen who were accused of this heinous crime.
And Greg, we got a lot to unpack this evening, but you know, you just reminded me when we talk about what Governor DeSantis did in this particular case.
Yeah.
When you look at how he's setting up his administration.
Yeah.
He's setting up his administration, and it's through bipartisan efforts.
So it appears, yeah.
And
so it appears, yeah.
So at the end of the day, you know, Greg, this goes back to January the 20th service graphics.
That's right.
And I'm welcoming everybody to come out. What's going on in communities. We can talk about lack of resources. But what I'm really looking for, Greg,
yes, sir.
and breakfast is on Let's Talk Nation. Come on out. Starts at 8:30. But what we're really looking for is where's all this leadership that we continue to hear about out there in the community? You know, the invitation is being extended to our faith leaders and our community leaders.
Now, Brother Love, when you talk about faith leaders, man, and before we get to that, man, if anyone wants to join the conversation tonight, the call-in number, as always, is 407-894-1680. Once again, the call-in number to join Brother Love and Greg Jackson on Let's Talk About It is 407-894-1680. And don't forget, if you're following us on Facebook or wherever, share. If you're not sharing this with your friends, you're not being a very good friend.
Yeah, you're right. Greg, because we're going to wind out. We got a lot to unpack, and I wanted to throw out January 26th, and we'll come back to it.
But I was going to say, to your point now, to your point.
But I want to go back to Groveland because we got to make sure that we give this the credit that it's due.
Now, what you want to talk about Groveland? What's going on with Groveland?
To talk about the fact that the first week on the job, there's a lot of issues out there. There's a lot of special interests out there. But this is something, man, when you talk about justice, this is something, man, we got to give credit where credit is due.
No, absolutely. And I mean, once again, Governor Ron DeSantis stepped out, and I mean, he hit the ground running in a big way. But with the 26, though, what you were talking about, and community leaders coming out, in particular faith leaders, remember, there are community pastors.
Oh boy, go ahead, speak it, Greg.
There are community pastors, and then there are pastors out there who are not community pastors.
But then there's also churches and community churches.
That's right. So this conversation is for those community pastors out there.
You're right. Hey, Armando said, man, we got to pay some bills.
Hey, so listen.
We're going to come right back to you.
Absolutely. So coming up next on Let's Talk About It, we're going to continue to hit on how Governor DeSantis has hit the ground running. You're going to want to hear what's coming up. And also the Volusia County president of the NAACP and Sheriff Chitwood.
And Sheriff Chitwood will be with us. Welcome back to Let's Talk About It with Rod Love and Greg Jackson. And Greg, man, boy, I tell you, we got a lot to unpack, but we got a nice little pace going here right
No,
now.
absolutely. But listen, following up on Governor DeSantis hitting the ground running, man. The next thing, I mean, I see we have the Florida Supreme Court justice appointments on here, but I mean, you hot and heavy on this water management thing right now, man.
Well, but just the fact that, you know, I don't know if you saw the chronology of how this unfolded, where you had a congressman that was participating in the process with the transition team, and the water management district, they went to execute a renewal lease of the land with, was it sugar farmers?
Yeah, with sugar farmers, yeah.
And they were requested to just pump the brakes so Governor DeSantis can participate and weigh in on this issue. And they proceeded forward. I mean, they didn't even tap the brake lights whatsoever.
Nah, yeah.
And so now the governor has asked for everybody's resignation on that board.
No, not everybody. Everybody.
Everybody.
You don't want to leave nobody standing.
And Greg, I got to tell you, you know, I can't knock them.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when the question becomes transparency, because apparently there was some issues with the notice of what was being voted on, the importance of what was being voted on, the fact that they relied on a statute that says that they have to renew the lease just so long as the land isn't being used, but they didn't give any indication of there being some other use of the land because Governor DeSantis wanted to use land south of Lake Okeechobee as a reservoir.
So Greg, let me ask you this. Does the sugar farm have anything to do with what we're constantly reading about with the algae blooms and things of that nature? Because a lot of pumping the brakes based on this new lease was based on environmental concerns.
No, absolutely. And so whether it is direct or indirect, the fact that the sugar farmers took away the land that was to be used as a reservoir, that in and of itself allowed the algae blooms to continue to grow in areas where it would not have if they were able to push that water that's laden with algae into these areas so that it wouldn't go into the coast.
I don't know if you noticed, but as we unpack these topics, one name continues to come up. There's a common denominator. So as we continue the show, we're going to see how many more times this name comes up.
Let me guess who that name is.
What name do you think that is?
Ron DeSantis.
Ron DeSantis. You're right. You know what, Sheriff? Let me ask this question. And Ms. Slater, we want your feedback on it, but how can Ms. Slater, NAACP, help the Sheriff's Office and vice versa with this issue?
Cynthia, you going to go first?
Well, yes. We will continue to scrutinize this lawsuit, and of course we will send this up to our state office, where President Nweze is the Florida State Conference president. Put it on our agenda, and if need be, if it passes, if we move forward with it, where it gets to a point where we have to send it to our national office, of course we will have to do that as well. And I don't want to speak on behalf of the state conference, but that is the protocol of where we will go with it. But we are certainly scrutinizing it, and I will send a report to our state president.
And Ms. Slater, and I say this because, see, on this show, we don't just throw softballs.
That's right.
We throw some hard fastballs. And here's the one thing that I will say to you, and I tell you, Dr. Nelson has told me about you and all the great work you're doing over there, but we're looking for the type of energy and aggression that went into Amendment 4. The same thing with Amendment 10, because if Volusia County can turn their back on Amendment 10 and the will of the people, they can do the same thing at 4. So we want to see the same energy. Sheriff Chitwood, Ms. Slater, I tell you what, you guys are always welcome on Let's Talk Nation. And Greg, I'm thinking, man, we might want to do a Volusia County show specifically on Amendment 10 in the very, very near future.
Hey, maybe we can get Shanti to crank up the van and we can go over there and do a remote show.
Oh, you're right. You're absolutely correct.
Hey, I'll tell you what, the sandwiches are on me.
Hey, well, Sheriff, we appreciate the work you're doing, but you know what? We also appreciate the courage that it takes to to put your best foot forward. So you're always welcome on Let's Talk Nation. Ms. Slater, you and the Sheriff, call on us if we could be of any service to you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you for raising this issue.
All righty, you take care. Talk to you soon.
Hey, happy New Year to you guys and your listeners.
Hey, thank you, Sheriff. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Situation.
Who best to appoint? Who best to appoint, Greg? Tell me that.
Hey, listen, this is a bad man, and Sheriff, I forgot his name already. Sheriff Israel has indicated that he's going to challenge this suspension. But let me give you my prediction, because you know me and my predictions. He might as well give it up, because the governor has the constitutional ability and authority if it is found that this sheriff was either was not performing his duties in a competent fashion, which I think they can show. Dereliction of duty, malfeasance, and things of that nature. And I think that they can show it in this case. And not only that, the fact that his men don't have any confidence in him.
Man, well, Greg, what's done is done, and now we need to look at how do we support Broward County Sheriff's Office, how do we support that Broward County community, and just, stepping back for a minute.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be about the politics whatsoever, but when you look at the leadership and the fact that his own agency
That's right.
gave a vote of no confidence, how do you turn around and come back from that?
You can't. You can't. Hey, and listen, I understand what Sheriff Israel is saying. I was voted in by the electorate. I am a constitutional officer, but the Constitution of the state of Florida dictates.
But that's why it's provisions.
That's right. And that provision is in there. And so that, listen, Governor Ron DeSantis is making some crazy waves, not crazy in a bad way, but in a way that people were not anticipating and expecting. Not only has he gone up against Big Sugar, remember that? He's gone up against Big Sugar and what he's done with the South Florida Water Management District. But now he has also potentially laid lines to show that he is not in bed with the NRA.
You're right.
So this governor, I think, is going to continue to surprise, shock, and please citizens of the state of Florida. You got quiet on what's going on?
Hey, Greg,
I can breathe, man. I'm taking the breath over here.
Hey, I'm looking at our show notes here, man, and as we talk about the Broward County Sheriff's Office and the fact that he's going to fight this, one of the things we didn't mention with the Southwest Water Management District is the fact that you got individuals on there that's refusing to resign.
They can give that up.
Great. So what we have here, man, is a governor who's stepping in and he's doing the right things on behalf of the people.
Now, I will say this. The board members of the South Florida Water Management District have a better argument than Sheriff Israel.
And what's that?
That unless it is shown that they have committed some act that would disqualify them for serving in that position, that they're supposed to remain in their capacity until their term limits end. So I think they have a better argument. I'm not saying that it's good. It's a better argument than Israel.
So when the big guy says, I don't have any confidence in y'all ability to act on behalf of the people because I've asked you on behalf of the people based on environmental factors to slow down. Let's get in here and examine this.
But now remember, the reason why they did not do it is because there was a contract with the growers that said that just so long as the land is available, that they can continue to use it. That I think that they can kind of hang. I'm not saying it's the greatest argument. I'm comparing Israel's argument to theirs.
Well, you know what? I will let me just say this, Greg, because we got about 6 minutes before the show concludes.
Yeah.
And we didn't pay any more bills this afternoon because this show just really got, but we can't, leave without talking about the shutdown.
No, we can't leave it out talking. But listen, before we get to the shutdown, man, we got Debo in the studio. My sister, your sister, Miss Stephanie Dixon, dang, she done ran up on her something. Did you see her now?
But I tell you what.
Don't look at her. Don't make eye contact now.
Because a locked door ain't gonna stop her, Greg. A locked door was not gonna stop her.
Debo popped up on us, man. She told us if we don't return those calls. She did it too. What's going on, sis?
Hey, but I tell you what, Greg. We're already in the longest government shutdown in the history.
Yeah, last week's show, we talked about the fact that we were at 17 days at that time. 21 days was the longest. And now we're at 24 days, and there does not seem to be an end in sight.
It doesn't. And, Greg, I was at my dentist's office today, man, and just having small talk. everybody's talking about the shutdown.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't know if it's surprising or not, but one of the things, man, that, you know, and some things that, you know, you don't want to have conversation about, especially when somebody working in your mouth and got that drill. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But Greg, hey, man, we got some laws that's been on the books that we've just totally and completely ignored. When are we gonna get it? I mean, we need to figure out how to fix this problem, point blank.
Yeah, well, I mean, here's one thing that a lot of people agree on. A lot of people agree that we cannot continue to allow people unfettered access to our country by coming across our borders. They've indicated that. The question is, how much should federal workers be penalized to allow or to prevent that from happening?
You're right.
And so, you know, right now, I mean, you have folks, and we talked about it last week, you know, you have folks, some of the lowest paid individuals in the country who right now aren't getting a paycheck. And I don't know about you all, but I've missed some paychecks when I wasn't making a whole lot of money, and it is a scary thing.
And right now, based on what's taking place, Greg, throughout the country, because when I think people had this stereotype, the people that we're talking about are just out of Washington, D.C. No, this is all around the country.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we can walk through Orange County right now and see individuals who are affected by the shutdown.
Miami-Dade Airport has closed off certain sections of the concourse based on, you got TSA workers calling in, you know.
Because they're not getting paid. Well, number one.
You know, they're not getting paid. A lot of them can ill afford to drive to get to work.
Gas to get there, or to pay the child care. Because what somebody was saying, well, if they can't afford child care, if they don't take the child to the daycare, they're not paying for that week. But no, if you have your child in the daycare, you're having to pay even if they're not there to hold their spots.
There's rippling effects behind
That's right.
this, Greg.
That's right. And so, I mean, you know, the one agency, or the three agencies that need to be shut down, and I want y'all to say this with me, the three agencies that need to be shut down in this shutdown is the I,
I know that's the first one.
and the S. And they need to be shut. If there's anybody that needs to be shut down, please listen to me. Listen to me. President Trump, do us all a favor. Shut down those three agencies, the I, the R, and the S.
Hey, I knew that's coming out your mouth. But Greg, in all, you know, and we're serious about this.
Yeah.
Our heart goes out to the people who are missing those checks to take care of their family. You got mortgage coming due. Like you mentioned, Greg, you got child care. Man, and this is tough, man.
Now, but you know, some Americans are coming together and, you know, they're providing loans and support to individuals who aren't getting paychecks. I actually heard that there were two ladies who are part of the shutdown. They're federal government employees, and they started a business.
That cake, that's the cheesecake. Isn't that the cheesecake deal?
Yeah. Doc Flight over there saying that student loan need to be shut down too. I'm with you on that. Shut them all down.
Well, Greg, you know, we 2 minutes, man, out. And, man, I tell you, I have great optimism about going into 2019.
Absolutely.
We talked about Volusia County, January the 26th. Please, 8:30 at the Claricona Community Center. We're going to be talking about community empowerment, public safety. We have Dr. Randy Nelson and Dr. Youssef from Bethune-Cookman University that's going to be giving a presentation. We also have former Orange County Sheriff Commander Mike Doby, who's going to be also giving a presentation. And at the end of the day, we can talk about this till we're blue in the face. We need resources in these targeted communities. We're going to have Mayor of the City of Apopka, Brian Nelson, that's going to be bringing some remarks. Nice. We also have Commissioner, and I'm proud to say my friend, Betsy Vanderlei, who's going to be in attendance as well. Nice. And she, I tell you, Greg, she was a doggone trooper, man, when we started talking about how we micromanage or micro-direct resources in communities that need to be there. Yeah. So, hey, January 26th, 8:30.
Hey, listen, you got to be there. You got to be a part of the process. You have to understand the process in order to be a part of it. So definitely, even if you have somewhere else to be, cancel it and come out on January 26th.
Great. You know what, brother? I know you went along last week, man, and you did your thing.
Armando was there. Armando held it down. So.
You and Armando, y'all held it down, and you know I was at the governor's ball, and it was fun too, man. I got to give it to you. But you know what, brother? I tell you what, man, I am happy to be back.
Hey, man, welcome back, man. It's good to have you back. I know that a lot of the listeners and things were asking where you were. They're happy to have the dynamic duo back. I guess that's why Devo showed up, because she wanted to say hello to to the dynamic duo in person.
Hey, Greg, Trish Martin say, hey, keep that IRS down on the shutdown. But, hey, Greg, at the end of the day, man, you do not have to go home.
But you got to get out of here.
We'll see you next week, same time, same place.
Let's talk about it.
Let's Talk Nation.